Talk About Trees is an interactive, science-based program for preschool through 8th grade students in Oregon. The goals of the program are simple: to encourage awareness and appreciation for the value of trees and forests in our daily lives, and to encourage an understanding about the protection, management, and conservation of the renewable forest.
Talk About Trees was started in 1979 in California by a woman named Nancy Inman. She was a teacher, a science teacher, and she felt that the information was very biased, and so she cashed in her retirement and started a program at that time that was called Trees Are For People. And it was in California. It still is in California, but it is also called Talk About Trees now. The name changed about a year after I took over the program. We thought Talk About Trees. It is a name that tells more about what we do. We talk about trees, and trees are not necessarily for people. They can be, but there's more than just that piece. So we were trying to broaden the message of the Trees Are For People program. And Oregon Women in Timber adopted it in 1991. We started with just a few thousand people the first year, and before the pandemic hit, we were up to about 140,000 people a year that we were teaching about trees. This year's been different, but just like the Douglas fir trees, we're adapting and trying to make it through this interesting time. We're still seeing 1,000 to 2,000 people a month statewide. We have teachers teaching on Zoom and Seesaw and Google Classroom, and we have a few of us still out in the woods wearing our masks, talking to small groups of children and adults about the value of trees in Oregon. The Talk About Trees program is available free of charge to all schools, but some other things that people don't know that we go to pre-pandemic. We go to science fairs, we go to county fairs, we go out to outdoor schools for a day. Anywhere where there are people who want to learn about trees, we have been able to go there because of our generous funding from OFRI and the sponsorship of OWIT. I was at the World Forestry Center on a Saturday, and there was a little guy and his dad there, and the little guy was pretty much playing with my stuff, and the dad and I were talking, and the dad said, "Yeah, they don't plant trees after they cut them down, do they?" And I'm like, "Yes, they do." And so you get these little tiny opportunities sometimes. And this young guy and I talked for 15 minutes, and I think I taught him a lot. And that is an adult that learned something. And yes, adults learn things too. And they're like, "Oh," he's like, "I didn't know that. That's great." And it's like, you would think, how could you not know that? But people don't. So we have a lot of different things that we can offer schools. We have basically an introduction to trees that is obviously different in preschool than 8th grade. We also, right when the pandemic hit, we were developing a specific program for 4th grade called Forests of Oregon, because they study the different regions in the state, and we were also including an indigenous peoples portion to that lesson, which is something they also study in 4th grade. So we really try to know what's happening at each grade level. A few years ago, we added a life cycle unit because that's big in the primary grades. 3 or 4 years ago, we added careers because there are career fairs, and in 5th through 8th grade, there's a place to be teaching kids about what they might be thinking about doing, and that is something that we do at the Oregon Logging Conference every year too. We do a little section on careers, and just as an aside, this year that is virtual, so we can still go and visit schools and teach them about the careers in the forest sector. We have paper making. One of our first reactions to teachers' evaluations was to create something the kids could make, because that we were hearing over and over again that the program's great, but the kids want something they can keep. And instead of giving them pencils or stickers, we decided, why don't they make their own paper? So again, in the pandemic, because we're not sticking our hands into messy piles of things, we're not making a lot of paper, but we will again, and that is probably one of our most successful programs, is paper making. I guess one of my favorite stories, I have taught a lot of my friends' kids over the years, as well as my own kids. And I went into my friend Romy's house and I looked at the wall, and at the wall there was a handmade piece of paper framed that her 18-year-old son Connor had made in kindergarten. So it warms my heart when I see these things. I have kids come up to me and say, "I made paper with you," and I still have it. I was just before the pandemic started, I was in a classroom teaching, and there was a young mom with a baby and her kindergartner. And after the program, she came up and said to me, "You made paper with me when I was in 4th grade," or some such thing. And that kind of warmed my heart too. So anyway, so I getting to see some things full circle. The number one way we get programs is repeat business. I've gone to some schools for 27 years. We go into a classroom. We love it when we get invited back a couple times a year, but initially we go in and we do a basic tree program, and then we might come back and make paper, take the kids outside for a walk, do a program on careers. Every year we seem to find another thing to talk about. We've developed a lot of additional lessons. I think we probably have 12 to 15 different options for schools right now. Talk About Trees has always been responsive to requests from teachers and looking around the world we live in, seeing what else could we be talking about and teaching about. And the clear program that we need to add to Talk About Trees repertoire of lessons is one on fire, given the events of the many summers past, but particularly 2020. That would be my goal, and going forward is to write curriculum and have an in-class program on teaching Oregonians more about forest fires, or wildfires, I guess I should say. Every year we get so many requests from teachers, and that will be a challenge when the pandemic is over, because so many teachers have retired or left the field. So we will be starting again using social media, word of mouth, digging deep to find where those teachers are when this is all over, because it's been a very challenging year for education. When things get a little more difficult in life, other opportunities arise. We've been able to, in person this year, we have really small classes, which has given us the opportunity to really teach kids at a different level. And that has been a gift of the pandemic that it's probably not sustainable when this is over, but it's been a true joy being able to work with 10 to 12 kids at a time as opposed to 30. So that's one of the good things. It's actually a pretty simple program. People want to learn about something, and we're there to teach them.
Excerpts from what parents and teachers say about Talk About Trees. Joni was great with the kids and answered all our questions. The kids and parents were engaged, and it was a lovely way to spend a morning in Selwood Park. We would definitely recommend Talk About Trees. Thank you for visiting. Your lesson was interactive and fun. We all learned a lot. It was so good to get them outside to learn more about trees and forests. I was so thrilled how Tina made this work on Zoom. Thank you for still offering this program during this crazy time. I could see many of the faces of my students very happy to see a familiar guest speaker. The tree walks are such a gift, especially this year. There is so little enrichment available, and the kids are just ecstatic to have a guest teacher. Thank you for providing this amazing opportunity.